It was a summer evening, as the crackling fire pit illuminated the faces of my aunt and me, each of us nursing a beer in hand. The atmosphere was relaxed, and the night seemed ripe for storytelling. Little did I know that the tale my aunt was about to share would leave an indelible mark on my soul. My aunt hesitated at first, her eyes reflecting a mixture of nervousness and trepidation. It was a story she had rarely spoken of, a haunting memory buried deep within her. But after assuring her that she could share it anonymously, she relented, understanding the power of storytelling and the catharsis it can bring. With a gentle warning about the unsettling nature of the story, my aunt began to transport me back to the middle of the 1980s, a time when she and a close friend found themselves in the heartland of the Midwest, navigating a series of temporary jobs. Life had been a whirlwind of uncertainty, and they were searching for stability amidst the chaos. Late one evening, as fate would have it, they stumbled upon a liquor store while on the lookout for some libations. Their eyes caught a glimpse of a help wanted sign adorning the store's front window, like a beacon of hope shining through the night. Curiosity piqued, my aunt decided to inquire about the job the next day. To her surprise and delight, she was swiftly hired. Her inherent ability to put others at ease, a trait that had always defined her, seemed to work its magic once again. Her warm personality and genuine nature endeared her to her coworkers, creating an atmosphere of camaraderie and friendship. In the evenings, after their shift, my aunt would often invite her coworkers over to their humble apartment, transforming it into a haven of laughter and revelry. Those gatherings became a cherished tradition where bonds were forged and memories were etched into the tapestry of their lives. The friends she made during those times were good-hearted souls, each with their unique stories and dreams. But life has a way of twisting fate when least expected. It was during those heady days of newfound happiness that tragedy struck, forever altering the course of my aunt's life. The memory of that fateful night still lingered in her mind, a scar etched upon her soul. As my aunt recounted the events, it became painfully clear that darkness had eclipsed their world that night. It was closing time at the store, and my aunt's friend was dutifully completing her closing duties. Unbeknownst to them, two figures slipped into the store's premises, their intentions concealed beneath a veil of malevolence. With chilling precision, the intruders brandished their weapons, forcing the staff into the chilling confines of the walk-in cooler. Fear gripped their hearts, and uncertainty clouded their thoughts. The leader of the two assailants, his rage simmering just beneath the surface, demanded access to the store's safe. But fate, with its whimsical nature, played its hand in unexpected ways. My aunt's friend, driven by a deep sense of self-preservation, made a split-second decision to protect her coworkers. She fibbed, claiming that only the absent day manager possessed the key to the safe, a lie intended to safeguard the lives of her companions. The tension in the air grew palpable, and the robbers' patience wore thin. Sensing their frustration, my aunt's friend then directed their attention to the meager sum residing within the cash register, a mere $32.53. It was a desperate attempt to appease their captors, a feeble hope that they would be satisfied with their ill-gotten gains. But hope faded into despair as the leader's anger surged. Like a raging inferno, in a moment of unbridled fury, he unleashed a torrent of violence upon the defenseless group. The sound of gunfire shattered the stillness of that ill-fated night, echoing through the store's walls and etching a horrifying memory into the survivors' souls. As the shots rang out, lives were extinguished in the blink of an eye. The innocent victims, who had been thrust into a nightmare not of their own making, fell one by one under the hail of bullets. Amidst the chaos and bloodshed, my aunt's friend, the brave soul who had tried to shield her comrades, was among those struck down. Her life cut tragically short. Hours passed in a hazy blur before the victims were discovered. By then, it was too late for all but one. The valiant day manager, Ben. He had fought for survival, enduring multiple gunshot wounds as he desperately tried to shield his beloved girlfriend from the onslaught. Though grievously injured, he clung to life, his spirit refusing to succumb to the darkness that had befallen them all. The subsequent weeks were a harrowing journey of pain and recovery for Ben. His body bore the scars of that nightmarish encounter, and his soul carried the weight of survivor's guilt. Medical professionals worked tirelessly to mend his physical wound, while he grappled with the emotional scars that ran far deeper. During our conversation, I discovered that Ben's battle extended far beyond the confines of his physical rehabilitation. The trauma he had endured had left an indelible mark on his psyche, and he sought solace in regular sessions with a psychologist. Those visits became a lifeline, a means to navigate the labyrinth of emotions that threatened to consume him. The wheels of justice turned slowly, and in due course, one of the assailants, the door guy, was apprehended. But even in his capture, the identity of his accomplice remained shrouded in mystery. The truth eluded them, hidden in the shadows of a criminal underworld. Ben, still haunted by the events of that fateful night, yearned for closure, for answers that might bring a semblance of peace to his shattered existence. As I listened to my aunt's narrative, I couldn't help but marvel at the resilience of the human spirit. Through her words, I glimpsed the strength that resides within each of us, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy. It was a testament to the enduring power of friendship, the bonds we forge in the crucible of adversity. In the end, it was Ben who bore the weight of the aftermath most heavily. His life, once intertwined with those lost in the senseless act of violence, had been irreversibly altered. The scars, both visible and invisible, would forever serve as a reminder of the fragility of life, the preciousness of each fleeting moment. As we sat there, the fire pit casting dancing shadows upon our faces, the weight of the story settled upon us. The tale my aunt had shared was not merely a recounting of events, it was a profound meditation on the enduring human spirit, the strength we find in the darkest of times. In the years that followed, my aunt and I often revisited that nightmarish chapter, not to dwell on the tragedy, but to honor the memory of those lost and to celebrate the resilience of the human heart. We understood that in the face of unspeakable horror, stories become the salve that heals, the threads that bind us together in our shared humanity. I was just 15 at the time, with a deep love for puzzles. The desire to buy a new one burned within me, but my pockets were lacking the necessary funds. So, in my quest for affordable toys, I enlisted the company of my 12-year-old sister, who, despite her young age, stood shorter than most. We embarked on our adventure, scouring the streets for hidden gems of off-brand toy stores. And lo and behold, we stumbled upon a rather peculiar establishment in a quiet corner of town. It didn't exactly exude a vibrant toy store vibe from the outside, and once we stepped inside, the disarrayed shelves spoke of a forgotten era. It seemed almost as if the store had lost its purpose over time, quietly existing without attracting much attention. Behind the cash register stood a man who couldn't help but notice our entrance. Strangely enough, neither he nor the store sent any immediate red flags my way. It was just an empty store, nothing more. With hopeful anticipation, I scoured the shelves in search of puzzles, only to find disappointment lurking in the corners. Feeling a flicker of desperation, I mustered the courage to approach the man and inquire about the elusive puzzles. "Excuse me," I began politely. "I can't seem to find any puzzles. Could you kindly point me in the right direction?" To my surprise, the man responded, Yes, puzzles. They're downstairs." Downstairs. That revelation caught me off guard. When we initially entered the store, I hadn't noticed any indication of a lower level. Curiosity tinged with suspicion began to taint my thoughts. The man left his post behind the counter and led me toward a door that would have easily gone unnoticed if not for his guidance. With a creak, the door swung open, revealing a steep staircase descending into darkness. At the bottom, a plain wall awaited, forcing a choice between left and right to enter whatever lay beyond. The dimness of the place and the absence of any toy-like atmosphere raised further doubts in my mind. Moreover, shouldn't the door to the supposed downstairs have been left open if it truly held puzzles? In that moment, my stomach dropped, and an overwhelming urge to flee washed over me. I felt an instinctive sense of danger, screaming at me to get out of there. The man stood beside me, expectantly waiting for my sister and me to take the first step down. Stammering and grasping for an excuse, I blurted out, my mom is calling me. I'll be right back." Grabbing my sister's hand, we hastily made our exit, vowing never to return to that eerie store. Perhaps there were genuine puzzles hidden away in that dark abyss, Or maybe it was a ruse designed to lure unsuspecting victims. I would never know for sure, nor did I have any intention of finding out. What I do know, my friend, is that it is crucial to exercise caution in such situations. If my instincts had been wrong, the consequences could have been dire. Just one step closer to that staircase could have sealed my fate, with no possibility of escape. So, I implore you, stay safe and be wary of random stairs that lead to unknown places. It's better to prioritize your well-being than to risk venturing into the shadows. May this tale serve as a reminder to remain vigilant and protect yourself from potential harm. It was a moonlit evening when I found myself at the heart of this eerie saga, seeking solace within the walls of my aunt's house in the remote countryside of West Virginia. Little did I know that darkness would soon descend upon us, casting its malevolent shadow upon our lives. The air was thick with anticipation as my mother, my younger brother, and I embarked on this ill-fated journey, venturing into the heart of familial turmoil. You see, my mother had two sisters, Jessie and Claire, and their children were like our own siblings. I, being the second oldest cousin, was burdened with the responsibility of overseeing the events that would soon unfold. Our arrival at Aunt Claire's house was meant to be a brief respite, a few days spent among family. Little did we know that fate had something far more sinister in store for us. As the evening wore on, the adults, fueled by their restless spirits, decided to venture out to the local bars. Left in their wake, my cousins and I were bestowed with frozen pizzas and a selection of rented movies to keep us entertained. The adults reveled in their freedom, while we, the innocent young souls, prepared ourselves for an evening of eerie cinematic delights. Among the adults, my mother was not much of a drinker, but her desire to partake in the merriment of her family led her to join them. However, lurking in the shadows of Aunt Claire's tumultuous love life was a man named Jack, a figure notorious for his tempestuous relationship with my aunt. Their on-again, off-again affair often erupted into tumultuous battles, a twisted dance of passion and pain. The night pressed on, and my younger brother, one of my cousins, and I settled in to watch the horror movie selected for our amusement. The tension built as the plot thickened, the darkness on the screen mirroring the growing unease in our hearts. It was then that the phone shattered the silence, piercing through the atmosphere like a siren of foreboding. My cousin, being the resident of the house, took it upon himself to answer the call. His voice trembled as he informed me that it was my mother on the line, urgently requesting to speak with me. Anxiety gripped me as I took the receiver, my mother's voice trembling with a mixture of concern and fear. She divulged a disturbing revelation. The enigmatic Aunt Claire had left the bar momentarily, assuring her sisters of her swift return. Yet, she had vanished into the night, leaving no trace. Then came the question that sent chills down my spine. Had I seen or heard from Aunt Claire? Regrettably, my answer was one of ignorant innocence, for I had perceived no signs of her presence. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily upon me as my mother imparted a final instruction, delivered with a hushed urgency, to conceal Aunt Claire's whereabouts from Jack, should he arrive later. A heavy burden settled upon my young shoulders, laden with a potent mixture of dread and apprehension. I returned to the living room, the movie now a distant memory, as the weight of the impending darkness pressed upon my soul. Time crawled at a torturous pace, each minute stretching into an eternity of uncertainty. Then, a faint knock resounded through the stillness, rousing me from my thoughts. It was Aunt Claire, clad in a disheveled state, her body swaying with the weight of her intoxication. The sight of her sent tremors coursing through my veins, for she bore the unmistakable marks of a violent altercation. Fear gripped my heart as I realized the source of her bruises. Jack, the tempestuous figure whose anger knew no bounds. With a feeble voice, Aunt Claire beseeched me not to involve the authorities, a plea tinged with a sense of despair. Uncertain of what course of action to take, I found myself trapped in a web of helplessness. All I could do was follow the instructions bestowed upon me, to guide her to the solace of my aunt's room, allowing her inebriated slumber to shield her from the world's cruelty. As I reluctantly retreated from the scene, the echo of her fragile breath lingered in the air. Yet, my respite was fleeting, for within moments, an ominous pounding thundered against the door. Dread coiled within me like a serpent, for I knew the origin of this malevolent disturbance. It could be none other than Jack. Consumed by a tempest of rage and seeking his prey, in the grip of apprehension, I approached the door, my trembling hand reaching for the doorknob. With bated breath, I swung it open, revealing the imposing figure of Jack, a tempest incarnate. His anger, palpable in the air, threatened to engulf me whole. I braced myself, determined to uphold the secrecy entrusted to me. Jack's voice, dripping with fury, pierced the stillness. His piercing gaze bore into my soul as he demanded information regarding Claire's whereabouts. My heart raced, threatened to betray me with each desperate thud. I summoned all my strength, attempting to maintain composure in the face of this overwhelming presence. With a voice that strained against my fears, I assured him of my ignorance, a practiced lie woven delicately to protect Aunt Claire from his wrath. The dim light revealed his bandaged hand, a ghastly reminder of the violence that had transpired. My mind reeled with horrific possibilities, envisioning the horrors Claire might have endured at his hands. An unspoken threat lingered in the air as Jack contemplated his next move, his eyes flickering with the fire of anger and suspicion. The seconds stretched into an eternity, each heartbeat echoing in my ears as I braced myself for the storm about to be unleashed. Just as the oppressive silence threatened to suffocate me, salvation arrived in the form of screeching tires and hurried footsteps. Relief washed over me as my aunt and mother materialized from the darkness, their voices a symphony of authority and defiance. They ushered me inside, commanding me to secure the door, while their words carried a weighty warning to the intruder outside. A gunshot shattered the night, its explosive cry reverberating through the very fabric of my being. Panic seized me, squeezing my heart in a vice-like grip. Terror whispered its poison into my ears, convincing me that my loved ones had become victims of this malevolent presence. Yet, amidst the chaos, a resolute voice cut through the tumult, my aunt's words a declaration of fierce determination. She wielded a rifle, a symbol of her readiness to protect her family from the encroaching darkness. My family's penchant for preparedness had manifested itself in this dire moment, a chilling testament to the evils that lurked within our midst. As they whisked Aunt Claire away to seek medical aid, their eyes locked with mine, an unspoken command echoing between us. I was to fortify the barricades, to remain vigilant, armed with the very instrument that could rend lives asunder. The weight of the responsibility settled upon my young shoulders, a burden I could scarcely comprehend. I peered through the windows, my gaze darting anxiously into the night, fearful of the return of the vengeful specter known as Jack. Hours turned into an eternity as I stood guard, my fingers tightly gripping the cold metal of the gun. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, sent shivers racing down my spine. The darkness seemed to seep through the cracks, whispering its malevolent secrets, and my mind conjured visions of Jack's wrath, his thirst for retribution. But the night wore on, and Jack remained an elusive phantom, his presence only lingering in the corners of my imagination. Exhaustion clung to my weary bones, my eyelids growing heavy with each passing moment. The weight of the gun became an anchor, threatening to drag me into a slumber I dared not succumb to. As dawn's first rays tiptoed over the horizon, casting a gentle glow upon the world, a sense of relief washed over me. The night had relinquished its hold, and with it, the fear that had ensnared my soul. Jack's absence spoke of a victory of sorts, a reprieve from the clutches of darkness. Days turned into weeks, and the echoes of that harrowing night began to fade. Life resumed its rhythm, albeit with an undercurrent of caution and unease. Aunt Claire's wounds healed, both the physical and the emotional, and she emerged stronger, her spirit unyielding in the face of adversity. We rarely spoke of that night, the unspoken understanding hanging heavy in the air. It was a chapter of our lives we wished to bury, to consign to the depths of forgotten memories. But its impact lingered, etched into the tapestry of our family's narrative, a testament to the depths of dysfunction and the resilience that grew amidst the chaos. Years have passed since that fateful night, and the bonds within our family have endured. We carry the scars of our past, a reminder of the darkness we once faced, but we also carry the strength forged in those moments of terror, a testament to the indomitable human spirit that triumphs over adversity. And as I recount this tale, dear listeners, know that within the tangled web of family lies both the potential for great love and great darkness. Our kinship binds us, for better or worse, and it is in the crucible of these relationships that our true selves are tested. So, let this cautionary tale serve as a reminder, a whispered warning in the depths of the night. Cherish your loved ones, for they are the fragile threads that weave the fabric of your existence. And when faced with the horrors that lurk within your own kin, remember to find strength in unity, to defy the darkness that seeks to consume you. For within the depths of dysfunction, there lies the potential for redemption, for it is through the crucible of our darkest trials that we emerge, forever transformed. 5 or so years ago, back in the days before I met my wonderful husband, Brian, I found myself living in a small, cramped apartment complex just a stone's throw away from campus. It was a lively place, bustling with students going about their daily routines. My roommate, Dan, was a fellow student at the university, and together we navigated the challenges of college life. We didn't own a car, which meant we relied on our trusty feet to get around town. Just a short 3-block walk from our apartment was a convenience store that became our regular haunt. We found ourselves frequenting the store so often that the staff recognized us and knew us by name. It was like a little community within our college bubble. One spring break, we had the pleasure of hosting my roommate's friend from back home, Nina, for a week-long visit. Nina was quite the character. She had a sharp wit and an outspoken nature, which, I have to admit, often brought a smile to my face. However, there were moments when her lack of filter and brashness could land us in unexpected predicaments. On a Saturday evening, just before Nina's departure, we decided to have a small get-together at our place. My roommate had plans with her boyfriend, so it was just Nina and me at home. Earlier that day, Nina managed to get her hands on an ounce of marijuana from one of our neighbors. We thought it would be fun to have a smoke before our friends arrived. As luck would have it, we realized we were out of rolling papers just as we were about to indulge in our little smoking session. Since we needed to pick up some beer anyway, we saw it as the perfect opportunity to grab some papers from the convenience store. Off we went, stocking up on drinks and snacks along the way, eager to get back and enjoy the evening. On our return, as we strolled across the parking lot, we noticed a group of guys loitering by the side of the building. It wasn't uncommon to encounter such characters in the area, and their crude comments were something I had grown accustomed to over time. Usually, I would just brush them off and continue on my way, not taking their remarks to heart. Nina, however, was not familiar with this little game and didn't appreciate their comments one bit. In a swift moment, she snapped back at them with fiery words, letting them know exactly how she felt. Well, that didn't sit well with the guys. They reacted in a way that took us completely by surprise. Their crude comments escalated into derogatory slurs, aimed directly at us. Fear gripped me, and my instinct was to run as fast as I could to get away from them. Nina, on the other hand, laughed it off, treating it like some sort of twisted game. But as I glanced back at the guys, it was clear they weren't joking around. They looked furious, angered by the audacity of Nina's response. Thankfully, Nina soon realized the gravity of the situation and started running alongside me. Thankfully, we were only a short distance away from our apartment. We hurriedly reached the safety of our door, slamming it shut and locking it behind us. I took a moment to catch my breath, grateful that we had escaped unharmed. Nina, however, continued to laugh, seemingly unaffected by the danger we had just encountered. Her laughter only served to fuel my anger. I couldn't contain my frustration any longer and unleashed a torrent of words on Nina. I scolded her for her reckless behavior, trying to make her understand the seriousness of the situation. But she just kept laughing, seemingly unable to grasp the potential consequences of her actions, all while remaining completely sober. Frustrated and still shaking with adrenaline, I stormed into the kitchen to put away the beer and snacks. As I made my way back to my room, a loud, pounding noise reverberated through the apartment, causing my heart to skip a beat. Instinctively, I crouched down next to the window, peering through a small crack in the blinds. Outside, I saw 3 of the guys from earlier pounding on our door with a menacing force. Fear washed over me once again, and I could see that Nina's earlier laughter had turned to frozen panic. The pounding continued, accompanied by a barrage of curses and vile name-calling. I couldn't bear to repeat the obscenities they hurled at us. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a ray of light appeared in the form of our neighbor, Alex. He was the same neighbor who had occasionally sold us weed in the past. Without hesitation, he confronted the guys, demanding to know what their problem was. My relief was short-lived as I watched in horror as all 3 of them pounced on Alex, ruthlessly attacking him. It all happened so quickly. The attackers kicked him mercilessly while he lay defenseless on the ground. I felt a mix of emotions, fury, helplessness, and an overwhelming sense of guilt. It was my impulsive friend's brashness that had ignited this chain of events, and now an innocent person was paying the price for it. Suddenly, Nina's voice broke through the chaos as she yelled defiantly at the attackers, threatening to call the police. Her words seemed to momentarily deter them, but they quickly turned their attention back to the door, spewing hateful words and laughing at her empty threat. Peeking through the blinds, I saw Nina dialing 911 on her phone, determined to bring help to our doorstep. Minutes felt like hours as we anxiously waited for the police to arrive. The thugs outside seemed to be engaged in a hushed conversation, their faces twisted with malice. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, they suddenly turned and ran off into the night. It was a moment of immense relief, yet the aftermath of the chaos still lingered in the air. Taking a deep breath, I cautiously emerged from my hiding spot and joined Nina near the door. The police arrived, their flashlights piercing through the darkness as they approached our apartment. Nina, in a surprising display of gratitude, hugged one of the officers and planted a kiss on his cheek, leaving him momentarily stunned. The police officers entered our apartment, their presence providing a sense of security and comfort. We thanked them profusely for their swift response, and before they could even ask, Nina launched into a detailed account of the events that had transpired. I followed behind them, my gaze fixated on our neighbor, Alex, who lay motionless outside. A paramedic arrived soon after, attending to Alex's injuries. I couldn't help but feel a mix of guilt and gratitude toward him. He had stepped in to defend us, putting himself in harm's way. I approached the paramedic, desperately seeking reassurance about our neighbor's condition. He looked at me with a solemn expression and confirmed that Alex would likely pull through, but not without a long fight ahead. With a heavy heart, I watched as they loaded Alex onto a stretcher and rushed him away. I wanted to accompany him to the hospital to show my gratitude and concern, but I knew I had a responsibility to stay behind and assist the police with their inquiries. I returned to the apartment, sinking into a chair, my body still trembling from the shock of the events. The police officers eventually concluded their investigation and left, their words of reassurance echoing in. User, continue. Chat PT. The apartment. I sat there, still shaken, contemplating the gravity of what had transpired. My thoughts turned to Alex, our brave neighbor who had come to our defense. He didn't deserve the violence that had befallen him. If only I had a car, I would have rushed to the hospital to check on him and offer my support. But the reality was that I couldn't, and it weighed heavily on my conscience. In an attempt to ease my frayed nerves, I reached for a cold beer and lit up a joint. Sitting in front of the TV with Nina, we sought solace in the familiar routine of casual conversation and shared laughter. Amidst the cloud of smoke, I found the courage to apologize to Nina for the reckless chain of events that had nearly cost us our lives. Her acceptance of my apology was a balm to my guilt-ridden soul, but I knew there was someone else who deserved her apology more. We spent the following day together, taking a bus to the hospital to visit Alex. As we entered his room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. Alex, however, displayed a remarkable spirit of resilience and kindness. Instead of demanding an apology, he inquired about our well-being, showing genuine concern for us. It was a humbling moment that spoke volumes about his character. We spent the day talking, sharing stories, and offering our heartfelt gratitude. Alex's positive attitude and unwavering strength gave us hope. Although his physical wounds would heal over time, the emotional scars would be a constant reminder of that fateful night. Still, I prayed that he would find the strength to move forward and eventually find peace. The weeks passed, and Alex returned to our apartment complex, a testament to his resilience. In a small gesture of appreciation, my roommate and I invited him over for dinner. We wanted to express our gratitude and show him that his act of bravery hadn't gone unnoticed. The dinner was filled with laughter, heartfelt conversations, and newfound camaraderie. As I observed Alex that evening, I couldn't help but marvel at the strength of the human spirit. Despite the challenges he faced, he had not allowed himself to be consumed by bitterness or anger. He had chosen to rise above the trauma, and his unwavering spirit became a source of inspiration for me. In the years that followed, I would occasionally cross paths with Alex within the apartment complex. Each time, I made it a point to express my gratitude and remind him of the impact his actions had on our lives. He had become more than just a neighbor. He had become a symbol of courage and compassion. Though life moved on and I eventually moved away from that little apartment complex, the memories of that night remained etched in my mind. The incident had changed me, reminding me of the fragility of life and the importance of standing up for what is right. As for Nina, she left the next morning, her presence fading into the backdrop of my past. Our paths diverged, but the lessons learned from that harrowing night stayed with me. I vowed to be more mindful of the consequences of my actions and to appreciate the unsung heroes who selflessly step in when others are in need. Now, as I reflect on that chapter of my life, I can't help but be grateful for the silver lining that emerged from the darkness. The bonds forged in the face of adversity, the resilience of the human spirit, and the reminder that even in our most vulnerable moments, kindness and bravery can prevail.